March 26th, 2001. It was 12 years ago on this day that the last ever WCW Monday Nitro aired on TBS.
Indeed.
Very sad day, even with the shell of a company WCW had become. That Raw that was simulcast, what are your memories of that day?
It was almost surreal. It was it was something that I didn't think I would ever see in my lifetime. And then when I saw it, it was almost as if I didn't believe it was actually happening.
Yeah, it was like I thought a lot of things about it. Number one, seeing Vince on Raw,
yeah,
and Shane on Nitro at the same time was surreal.
Yeah,
I mean that was something else. And you think about Vince being able to finally swat away the billionaire and the WCW. That was something, I also felt kind of cheapened in a way because I just felt that WCW Nitro, that whole thing was more revolving around building up to that Sunday's WrestleMania 17 match with Vince and Shane. But, that WCW Nitro.
It also, made me think that WCW deserved a better fate than what it got. I understand that, the business and everything else, the way that it was run was crap. But, I mean, with the history that WCW had, it just felt to be that it deserved a better fate.
It's one of those things, though, is that to the victors goes the spoils. And one of the biggest spoils you get throughout the history of civilization is the winners of battles or wars. They get to write the history books the way that they want to, that makes them look the best. And
that's true.
No different here. So we've decided to start doing themed Q&As. And I figured this was the best way to start. We get WCW questions at the time. Primary reason for trying to do these themed Q&As, instead of doing random Q&As that have all different types of questions and all different types of things, we know that a lot of you out there have certain questions about a specific topic. Mm-hmm. So why not group them together and go from there? Maybe sometimes we will do random Q&As, but
I'm sure we will.
I'm sure we will too. But this one here is all about WCW, the Monday Night Wars, Monday Nitro. Let's see how many questions we can get in the next 13 minutes.
Let's do it.
Maybe we'll do another one of these WCW ones at some point. At Orden G. Armstrong, would WCW have survived longer if Goldberg had had more than one reign as world champion?
I think that it probably could have if they wouldn't have taken the belt off of him in the first place and just had him keep it. I mean, he was the face of the company at that time when he had the belt. You needed that face. When you took the belt off of him, almost pretty much got buried.
It's woulda, coulda, shouldas. Would it have helped if his one title reign would have lasted longer? That would probably be more what I'd focus on is when the title reign ended, was it the right guy that did it? Was it done in the right way? And the answer was historically has been proven to be clearly not, no matter what Kevin Nash tries to tell us. God bless Kevin. I like him a lot, but sometimes he's full of his own shit too, as we all can be.
Yep.
At Ty Mills 1104, who should have been the man to end Goldberg's streak? And how long would you have had the streak last?
Well, I think that the streak could have ended, at any one time. I don't. Who would have been the man to end the streak? Gosh, probably Nash. Probably would have been the one to end the streak. But I just don't think that the timing was right for them to do that at the time that they did it.
If they were going to have somebody end it at Starrcade '98, it should have been Bret Hart.
Yeah.
I would have liked to have maybe seen the streak get up to 200-0 before you'd done it.
Mm-hmm.
But if I'm thinking of one person that probably should have ended the streak, Bret Hart stands out as one. Obviously, you could throw Hogan into the mix.
Sure.
I don't think Nash was the guy. In order for somebody to end that streak, it has to be somebody that's a really big deal, is already the top guy, or is going to be the top guy after that victory. And to me, those are the two names that stand out the most, and Kevin Nash is not on that list. I'm sorry. It's just
I'm not going to argue with your two guys that you picked there, but I think that Nash probably could have been that guy, just not at that time. Later on, but just
later on maybe, but not at that point. At Jonathan J. Laughlin, he has two questions. First one, was Thunder's broadcast a major reason WCW failed in whole?
No. I don't know I don't think that was the reason.
I mean, if you're going to argue that was part of the reason that WWF created SmackDown and all of that, perhaps, but I mean, they at one point in time they had like 4 or 5 of the 6 highest rated hours on cable television on a week in, week out basis, and Thunder was a contributing factor to that.
Right.
And Thunder did give some advancement of the storylines from Nitro, gave focus to some other guys that maybe weren't getting time on Nitro.
Exactly. And you needed that. You needed to build up your lower end card guys and bring them up, so that when you brought them onto Nitro, they were at least known.
They were almost ready for primetime players.
Right.
Many reasons WCW failed. I don't really classify Thunder as one of the major ones. Was not building younger talent when WCW was at its apex in '98 a major or minor reason?
That was big.
Not even just that. It was over the years allowing the Steve Austins, the Cactus Jacks, the Triple H's before that, Mean Mark Callis,
right.
The guys like that, allowing them to leave. Later on in '98, '99, the guys like Big Show or the Giant at the time, Jericho, allowing those guys to leave, that was disastrous. This is one of the biggest reasons from a creative standpoint that the WWE ended up winning in the Monday Night Wars, because they took WCW's young talent and made them their own big stars, right? Where WCW just focused on the old guys. At Disco Ben, also known as Nebec Sid, he has 3 questions. What was worse, David Arquette's title reign or one of Jarrett's 4 title reigns?
Easy, David Arquette.
Easy, one of any of the 4 of Jeff Jarrett's, but they were pretty close to equally bad. At that point in time, it was terrible.
David Arquette just tarnished that belt. I mean, once he held the belt was meaningless.
Schleich Daddy, what was your reaction to Hogan's heel turn? Of course, you're talking about Bash at the Beach '96. Initially, I was pissed off. And that lasted all of about a couple of seconds.
Yeah. Shocking.
Well, I didn't watch, to be fair, I didn't watch the pay-per-view live or anything. I found out about it the next day. But when I found out about it, because we had been talking at school about it, whether or not who was going to be that 3rd member, and somebody had thrown out Hogan, and I got pissed. But then when I started to hear what was going on and I started to watch and pay attention to WCW, I got over that very, very quickly.
Yeah.
So it ran a whole gamut from pissed to God, this is freaking awesome, and I need to watch this, not WWF.
I've hated Hogan my whole life, and then when he ended up turning heel, I hated him even more, believe it or not.
But he was a heel, and he got the heat from you, didn't he?
Exactly.
But did you watch every week?
Absolutely.
Absolutely. What was WCW's worst gimmick? The Shockmaster!
Glacier's up there, too.
Oh, fuck. What were, God, what the fuck else was bad? Just bad.
Glacier was horrendous because they had all this
terrible
build-up. It was a nice, all the vignettes were pretty cool.
What was
they came out, it's like, this is
what was Gold Dust? 7?
Yeah.
Oh, God, that was awful, too. All that build-up for the one fucking appearance, so for him to come out and cut this work-shoot promo. Thanks, Russo. Lots of bad ones, but those are a couple of the worst.
Yeah.
You got any other ones? I know there's a lot more. Please. Oh, the Yeti was terrible.
Oh, that was bad.
Oh,
yeah.
Oh, yeah. The Dungeon of Doom was just bad. At Candy Lick 21 has 2 questions. What do you think WCW would have been like without NWO?
It would have remained a non-factor in any kind of war whatsoever.
Yeah, they would have been very small potatoes competition to the WWF.
Oh, yeah.
With the WWF struggling. What do you think was the #1 reason WCW went out of business? The fact that they were
bad contract.
They were running too much in the red, and then you got that AOL Time Warner merger. Thank you.
Yep.
Where a lot of the assets were sold off, and WCW didn't fit the portfolio. They didn't want it on their network, and that's just the way it was.
AOL Time Warner didn't want anything to do with wrestling.
Yeah. I mean,
once Turner sold, it was over.
It was, and especially because you had no financial thing of, hey, you know what? You might not like this, but as a businessman, this is clearing $30 million a year in net profit every year. So get a clothespin for your fucking nose, asshole.
Right.
You couldn't really do that because they were losing money on top of it.
Yep.
At Andy the Gordy, as someone who missed WCW completely, what events or pay-per-views would give a good overview of the company? Bash at the Beach '96.
Yeah, easy.
The first ever Nitro.
Yeah.
Going back a little bit farther, watching some of the old Clash of Champions to show you where WCW started and kind of came from.
Chi-Town Heat.
Mm-hmm.
Starrcade, what, 87, maybe even 88, you know, if you want to go back even further, you know. I mean, some of those older Starrcades didn't really have anything all that much to do with WCW, but 87, 88, where they were making that transition, yeah, those are definitely cards that you want to include on that.
If you want to see some of the stupidity of WCW, try and find some of the old shows where they used to do the show on the beach, where they didn't charge anybody admission. The night that Goldberg beat Hogan for the belt, they had 40,000 people in the Georgia Dome, but they only announced it 3 days before.
One that I attended down in Cedar Rapids, Iowa, which was the first NWO and only NWO pay-per-view, sold out. That was terrible.
At I Am Salim CM3, who do you guys think was the most overlooked wrestler in WCW in the Monday Night Wars or otherwise?
Overlooked, huh? Wow, that's a good question. Who do you think?
Overlooked by the fans or overlooked by WCW? I think one of the most overlooked at that time, to a degree, would have been Jericho.
Yeah.
I think another one that ended up kind of sort of getting buried because he got moved aside for the NWO was the Giant.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, there are others too. You know, some people are going to say the cruiserweights like Ray and Eddie, but
I think that you can argue somebody who you mentioned earlier. I think you can argue Bret Hart.
Well, I think that's a tremendous, a tremendous one that you throw out there. That was, God.
Yeah, I mean, he was so misused, underutilized.
And he was overlooked, and by the time they tried to rectify the mistake, it was too late. At Welly Kelly 235, at what moment did the NWO start becoming too much and overwhelming?
Probably about the time that they had like 15, 20 members or whatnot. Then you started having all these other factions, like you got the Wolfpack, you got the Latino World Order. Yeah, that was overwhelming.
When you had people like Horace Hogan.
Right. Yeah, it's just, too much.
That's his point. It started to get to be overwhelming. It's hard, though. You got such a good thing. You tendency is always to overdo it.
If it would have stayed the original three for a while, for more than what it did, I think that it probably would have been much better. But when they started bringing on all these other little factions and everything else, the LWO and all that other crap, the Japanese too.
God, don't even remind me. At T_Hughes35 wants to know, after Russo left Johnny Ace from
October 4th, 2000 until now, what were WWE's best moments in your opinion? There's only one. Go ahead, say it. No, frankly, if they have to ask, they should be ashamed of themselves. I will not break down in hysterical laughter over Sin of 2000. You did it. He told Psycho Sid that he had to expand his offensive repertoire and get up on the second Scott. That's a four-way match. That's what makes it so bad.
What's worse? Him actually telling him that, or Sid actually doing it?
He said, nah!
And then his leg went to never mind. There's no rest.
That is the most memorable moment. Oh, fuck. At Anything Goes Show WWE, what was the turning point in the Monday Night Wars? There are probably several. One that's often credited.
Are you meaning toward WCW's favor or
turning point in WWF's favor?
Okay.
Creation of characters like Stone Cold, The Rock, Triple H. I think the first turning point, even though it took a while for the fruition to come, would have been the Montreal Screwjob.
Yeah,
that was a big turning point. The Austin era starting as you got Rock and Triple H coming along. Got things like King of the Ring '98 where Foley's getting thrown off the top of the Hell in a Cell by Taker multiple times. Foley winning the belt on January 4th of '99, the same night of the finger poke of doom. There's lots of pivotal turning points.
When the WWE decided to go to a more edgier product, I think that was huge because WCW just kind of remained where they were at. They didn't really try to go out there and push the envelope anywhere.
To be fair, from what we understand, too, is they didn't quite have the same freedoms that WWF had gotten from USA. Last question here at Total Heel. Do you think when the NWO Wolfpack was created, the NWO became a joke? Yeah.
Yeah, it didn't help. NWO was... they were a heel faction, and then when you start trying to bring in Sting, who was going against the NWO, and then you got him joining the Wolfpack and all this other, it's just, that was just horrendous.
Almost nobody stood on their own merits anymore. No. Everybody was a part of something NWO related and just became too fucking much. Yep. Thanks to all of you that submitted your questions for this WCW Q&A. Some point in time, I guarantee we'll do another one. And the next theme Q&A we are going to do will be about either WrestleMania 29 or the WWE Hall of Fame. So the instructions are in the description box.
Down there.
So check it out.
All right.